I've been working on a project on self-censorship, and it's evolved in a rather interesting way. So right now, I'm looking at it in terms of power. I think that's useful to look at censorship and self-censorship in terms of power, and to build a framework that I hope can be used to discuss the issue in a way that empowers journalists working in environments where this is an issue. The media in Singapore, we work within a system where the government is very dominant and powerful. And okay, like any powerful government, it wants to control information to suit its purposes. But it's also a very sophisticated way of influencing media, because this is a government that doesn't use like strong arm tactics like throwing journalists in jail. Instead, it has been very effective in persuading and bringing journalists around and editors around to its point of view. I think the situation is that very often we are very careful about what stories we pursue or how we write certain stories, because we know that there may be repercussions if we are too critical, and it's never clear where the line is. So I think that we tend to err on the side of playing it safe. When I applied for the fellowship and when I first arrived, I thought my idea was to come up with some kind of tool that would be helpful to journalists facing this problem of self-censorship. And I realized that, while people may be quite familiar with the idea of censorship, many people would say, what's self-censorship, right? And that was useful too, that people kept asking me, what exactly is self-censorship? Because I had to push myself to think about, what exactly am I talking about? And when I first came, I took classes in communications in journalism, because I don't have a degree in journalism. I've never studied journalism. And that was interesting. And I started thinking about it in terms of journalism ethics, whether censorship and self-censorship could be seen as an issue of ethics and being almost unethical if we censored ourselves to the extent that we sacrifice things that journalists should value, like truth, and letting the public know what they need to know. So I was going along like this, and I guess I started thinking about power when I had a conversation with my former colleague from Singapore, who did his PhD in communications here. I found a book on self-censorship that focused on Hong Kong, and interestingly enough, it was the PhD thesis of a law PhD thesis of a woman who had done her PhD here at Stanford Law School. Yeah, and it was all on self-censorship, and in this book there were several definitions. And then when we were talking, he said, yeah, that definition, it's about power, isn't it? That's when you have censorship, when power gets in the way of expression. And after that conversation, that thought stayed with me, and I've been playing around with the idea, I guess. And this quarter I took a class called Acting with Power in the GSB. And so I've built my framework based on certain things I learned in that class, which I hope would be useful, because my idea has always been to come up with something that I could use as class material to run a workshop or a class for journalists. It has been fabulous, because I've learned a lot about many different things, and I never thought that I would go to the business school and learn about organizational behavior, and that it would be something that I would find so exciting about motivating people, empowering people.